Hi there and welcome to Footyology, the show breaking new ground by relentlessly talking about football. I'm Rowan Connolly, with me is my co-host Mark Fine, and we're here to give the lowdown on a big round 13 that began in controversy, ended in furore, and unbeknownst to many, also played host to 6 AFL games. Who'd have thought? We've got the latest in football news and deadpan delivery with John Pyrrhic. We've got rounds of our lives, keyboard Q&A and the credibility ladder. We've got the rant off. We've got sunlight on the sand. We've got moonlight on the sea. We've got mangoes and bananas. Hang on, that's South Pacific. But you get the drift. So let's rip into it. As I say, good afternoon to you, Finey. And how did you feel those empty hours without an extra 3 football matches?
Can't you tell?
No, I can't.
I've got my hair cut. I've manicured. Don't I look more beautiful?
Actually, you do look a bit fresher. You look rested and what's happening?
There are only 6 games of football.
Okay. Well, I thought you were such a football addict that you...
Actually, I am a football addict and I watched a couple of VFL games.
So did I.
Good news for Essendon. I mean, it was a good weekend for Essendon, but I reckon most of their good news came in the VFL. They were 40 points down against Werribee. Did you see the goal by Aaron Francis?
I saw all of Aaron Francis and was suitably excited by that.
And I actually like Jake Long as well.
Yep.
I'm surprised he hasn't got a game.
Well, I think one might be coming sooner than later. He's certainly had a good preparation, but what do you think of the round in a nutshell?
Wait till hot or not.
Okay, we'll find out. So just 6 games this round, but a couple of clashes of top 8 teams among them. Lots of incident, plenty of fire and brimstone. Let's check out the highs and lows of it all in hot or not. Okay, we're going to set a cracking post today. You're off the rank.
I'm turning into a lover of the Essendon Football Club. I really like Orazio Fantasia. He's lively. He's got a good tank on him. I know he's been playing mainly as a small forward. Kicked 4 goals, 4 on the weekend, and wasn't impossible that he had 4 or 5 by half time. Set up a couple of goals. Might be hard to pronounce. He almost sounds like an attraction at Disneyland, even though that's probably untimely. But he's the Orazio Fantasia show. He's definitely going to carry on in 2017. He's going to be part of Essendon's best 22 when everybody's available.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's a gun. He's got great pace. They were using him exclusively as a small forward earlier in the season, but I reckon he might graduate into more midfield time, but he's seriously quick.
He's got a tank, and he has a crack. He tries things. Yeah, he's made a few errors, but I really like him as a footballer.
Yep, no, definitely on the improve. Good call, Finey. I'm starting with a hot 2, and it's at the other end of the experience spectrum. It's Jordan Lewis. Now, I reckon here's another player who's been undersold. He was absolutely sensational against North Melbourne last Friday night. Started his season fairly slowly, and I think a few people probably started saying, he's getting a bit long in the tooth. But his last month has been unbelievable. I did a few sums, or as many as my brain's capable of, and he's averaged 34 disposals in the last 4 games. He's just been terrific. I don't know why we're now looking at... there he is again, previous game. Sorry, that was silly of me. That's those stupid white things they're wearing. Looks just like the Power Rangers outfit. But look, he gets he lives in the shadows a bit of Hodge and Mitchell, doesn't he?
Not for mine.
But he's
I reckon he's a champion. Yeah. And he really lifts against North. He's sort of on the angry pill sometimes against North.
He was last year, yeah.
Not just last year. There's been a couple of times where, I think 3 times he's been reported and either suspended or received fines against North Melbourne. I don't know whether it's something about their midfield or something about the old rivalry, Hawthorn and North Melbourne.
I reckon he's been watching the final story about the 1975 grand final and got
Goes
fired
back
up a bit. Your turn.
We asked me what I thought about split round football. It's not hot. It's not hot at all. 6 games of football used to cut the mustard when I was a kid, and they played them all simultaneously. But there's just not enough depth of good football. So when you've got 6 games and a couple of them are all interstaters, I know that's very Melbourne-centric, but you probably got to have to be a real keen footy fan to love Brisbane versus West Coast. Fremantle, Port Adelaide, Essendon, GWS. It's just not around for mine. 3 weeks of this, I don't like it. Cut it down to 2, maybe even try and thinking of having a week off and no buys whatsoever, but definitely cut it down to 2 next year, AFL.
Well, I'll stick up for him on this one because this debate happens every year, and we've had that many discussions about, what's the best format, and they have literally tried every combination. We've had, back in the days when there were 8 games, we've had 7 and 1, 6 and 2, 5 and 3. I quite like the evenness of the 6, 6 and 6.
I don't.
So what, do you think everyone's better with a week off?
Everybody maybe have an entire week off, just take a week off from football and use it to celebrate local football, really have the AFL supporting local football, have players go back to their original clubs and make a bit of a festival of that, or down to 2 weeks, because 3 weeks of this is too much, for mine anyhow.
Okay, I've got a not next, and it's Port Adelaide. And I'm a bit down on the Power and have been for a while, and this performance against Fremantle sort of underlined why, because their form's been reasonably solid for quite a while now. They've built up a reasonable head of steam. This was a game they had to win. Now, I know the Dockers are playing a lot better now, and I know it's in Perth, but the Power have won games there before. They won a final there. If they were to have any chance of staying in the race to the 8, they had to win this game. And I wouldn't say they didn't look like. I mean, the Fremantle basically kept them at arm's length. I never got the feeling that Port were really a winning chance once Freo established that break. And it continues the form really that they've shown, the patchiness, since mid-2014. So we're now talking about a 2-year time span where, they've won a couple, lost a few. They haven't been that Port Adelaide that we keep talking about and waiting to re-emerge now for 2 years. So I guess my point is that is the real Port Adelaide, not the Port we saw in the first half of 2014.
I think what's really problematic with them is their midfield. It's overrated. Travis Boak hasn't been a powerful footballer for a couple of seasons. Hartlett, there's questions on him. And I want to ask you this. With their midfield operating at half rat's pace, can they afford the luxury of having the champion, Chad Wingard, sitting in a forward pocket on a half-forward flank for 4 quarters?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. No, that's a good call.
Why doesn't he run into the midfield? Any time he does, he seems to be a pretty effective footballer.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that Ken Hinkley could sit there watching that game and their season drain away and have Wingard sitting in the forward pocket.
Yep, no, fair call. Okay, your turn.
This one's a little bit counterintuitive because my hot is cold. It's cold, wet weather football. You can stick your roof at Etihad. There is honestly, there is nothing better for mine than a good wet weather clash. We're watching Sydney versus Melbourne here. There were some great skills in the wet. Buddy kicked 4 goals. Dean Towers kicked a couple of beauties. I love seeing good wet weather football, and that's what we had with Sydney and North Melbourne.
Yeah,
Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, bit too wet for mine, but I know where you're coming from. I did all those, winter afternoons in the outer. I want a comfy chair now.
Do you like Max Merritt and the Meteors?
Oh, when I was 5.
Because you can play the footage of that game to
slide in the weed.
Exactly, you got
all right,
that.
My last one now. Any excuse to burst into song on this show. My one, last one is a not. It's a Western Bulldogs. Look, bit harsh. I think they've been admirable all year, the way they've held up in the face of injury. But really, they got taken to the cleaners by the Cats. I thought the Cats were cleaner, they were more efficient. Most importantly, they had a productive forward set up, and that has been the Achilles heel for the Dogs all year, really, and it continues to be. I think they've got some big decisions to make about bringing Tom Boyd back, because I don't think having Redpath as basically your sole key position player plus stringer is working, and having a rotating squad of midfielders. They just can't conjure enough goals. 10th for points scored. You've got to have more firepower than that if you're aspiring to win a flag, and they need to fix up those forward issues quick, smart.
Yeah, I mentioned about Redpath last week. He just doesn't have the tank to exploit backman and run for a full game yet. Maybe next year, but not this year. It's $1 million a year question, isn't it, Tom Boyd? And I reckon you're quite right. Bring him back and see what he can add to the mix, because they need to score more. Good point, Ron.
Well, we have got the tank and we're going to use it. Time for a short break. When we come back, our news hound's here to bring you the stuff they used to call news, but now fills the gaps between people shouting a lot. Oh, actually, that's our last segment too. But first, let's get to the post-game press conferences where Grant Dickinson won't take no for an answer, isn't convinced by a yes, and calls cowardice in the event of a non-committal, which doesn't leave a lot really, except of course, the pressing questions.
Brendan, did you get the memo that you don't come into a press conference when you've got a bye?
Yeah, well, it's hard to understand it when you've been in the job 6 or 7 months, but...
Welcome back to Footyology, and before I introduce John Pyrrhic with the news, I've got some serious news of my own. Last week, we revealed on this show how we'd been done over by those mongrels at Talking Footy as I stumbled over my words. Well, after some exhaustive negotiations in which we promised to stop telling Luke Darcy he looks like Ben Stiller's Blue Steel in Zoolander, they agreed to let us use the footage. We're going to have a look at it right now, but take careful note of the slow motion replay and the appearance of a rogue arm at the right hand side of the screen.
Rowan Connolly showing us all how it's done.
And welcome to Footyology, the football show that hasn't played the game at the highest level but can manage to string two words together. And a former star in a motorised four-wheel vehicle...
Say that again.
Yes, that arm belongs to Mark Fine. And I can now reveal exclusively on Footyology that this was in fact the infamous day that Finey awoke at 11:43am, some miles from the studio, and had just stumbled onto the set as I was doing the intro, completely distracting me from the task at hand and causing me to make an all too rare verbal slip-up. Footyology sources have indicated to me that this public lambasting has taken a deep personal toll on one of the show's hosts. And yes, Mark Fine, I am that host, and those sources are me. And so in traditional footy classified fashion, I ask you, Finey, will you apologise? Oh, very clever. Very clever.
There's my apology.
You put this show's reputation at risk, and that's your answer?
You asked for an apology and you got it.
No, I thought you were going to say you're assuming this show has a reputation.
That as well. That's my response.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, I know our news hound's going to be hitting the phones chasing the next instalment in that breaking story. But in the meantime, John Perrick's had his tape recorder, expense card and incriminating photos working overtime to bring you tomorrow's news today. What do you think of that, JP?
It's a bit hard to top that one, Rowan.
Well,
I think you should enter that in the awards this year.
Well, I will be, mate. I mean, it's not often you get to break an exclusive on a panel show, but frankly, I was staggered and appalled.
Well, I guess we all were. In terms of this weekend gone by, we've had one of sort of the major incidents of the season, haven't we? Sort of the regrettable interview between Eddie Maguire, Danny Frawley, and James Brayshaw on Triple M Radio, where
it wasn't really an interview. It was more of a sort of a
it was
pile-on, really.
Yeah, wasn't it? It was unfortunate. It wasn't a great look. There's been a lot written and said about it, and there's been a tremendous amount of fallout, hasn't there? Eddie Maguire's found himself in serious trouble. Gillon McLachlan, the AFL chief executive, has come out and had a crack at the three men in question. And obviously, it was about Caroline Wilson, the chief football writer of The Age, and those three sort of suggesting that she be dunked in the water and not be allowed to resurface. Yes.
Yeah, it could have been pushing it a bit far, I think.
Yeah, well, there's been
it was pretty brutal. Wasn't
it was pretty brutal, yes, and certainly unnecessary. And
so
understandably, there's been claims that leads to domestic violence and the like. So it's not something we need in the sport. I guess one of the big fallouts has been sponsorship of Collingwood Football Club by Holden. They've come out and said they're now reconsidering this. It was a 5-year deal announced last year for about $3 million a year. I guess if Holden's true to their word and they do pull this, what implications would that be for Eddie, do you think?
Well, yeah, it feels like there's been a tipping point. In a way, I think the next week's going to be as interesting as the last couple of days because there's a real challenge to Eddie's reputation and status almost. And, it's turned into a far bigger story, hasn't it? I mean, we've had, half the politicians in the country having their two bobs worth. But, look, I saw his apology last night and he did seem, it took 3 goes, but he did seem genuinely contrite at the third attempt. I think it's a difficult one. I think a lot of us, I like to think I'm pretty PC, but there are times I sort of struggle to appreciate from a female perspective the significance of these issues. So, look, we live and we learn, and hopefully at some stage we can sort of let it go and hopefully avoid a recurrence.
Just on to football matters, Alan Turvey, the rebounding halfback at the Pies, is out of contract this year. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's yet to be told whether he's wanted next year. The Pies have a few list management decisions to make. Dane Swan's obviously at the top of that. Do you feel there's a future for Alan with the Pies?
Yeah, there is. I mean, he's at his best. He seems to need that sort of continuity, I think, to be very effective. But he's a good rebounder. He can shut down a small forward. What do you reckon?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I agree with him, the footballer, your take on him as a footballer. And I think he's sort of an acquired taste. He needs to be in a club, be given roles. He's a role player for mine. And Collingwood have overlooked him this year for whatever reason. They've got an embarrassment of, and the word isn't riches, they've got an embarrassment of choices in a lot of positions, and I don't think they've worked out what their best team is yet, but I think they've worked out Alan Tuvey isn't part of it.
He expects to find out his future next month. On to Essendon. John Worsfold's put the number 1 pick on the agenda if the Bombers do end up at the bottom of the ladder. He says the Bombers are open to trading that pick. One club other clubs have been mentioning is the Gold Coast Suns. They'll possibly have pick 3 or 4, possibly number 7 or 8 for Melbourne last season as well. They've got a swag of second round picks. I guess for the Bombers would you swap your top pick for, say, 2 picks in the top 10 in a year when the draft is said to be pretty even? Can that really enhance your rebuild?
I would, yeah. I think that's a great idea. And look, I'm a bit of a draft sceptic. I think there's often not a lot of difference between any of those first round picks, and they've got that senior core coming back. I don't think they need to go the trade route. They do need a key forward, but maybe this is a time to be building up those stocks of super quality players, because I still think they lack a bit of that. So I'd be all for that.
The benefit for the Suns would be they'd potentially have the best pick,
Well,
the best player at number 1 outside of their academy, and then also pick up their best academy prospect in Jack Bowles, who many people believe should be the number 1 pick in the draft. So it could be a win-win for both clubs.
He's got Jack Bowles going.
Wasn't he the guy for 24 hours?
True.
Jack Bauer.
Yeah.
You've got Jack Bowles going to the Gold Coast. Brisbane have also got a
He'd be
top
fit.
line.
Yeah, Brisbane have got some academy.
But
kids
they've got a
coming
top
through as
line
well.
academy pick. It's a muddied waters draft this year. Hard to work out who's who.
Yes. And just some injuries as well. Josh Caddy looks like missing the next month with a medial ligament issue. Up to a month. And Luke McDonald from North Melbourne hopes to get back before the end of the season. We saw him on Friday night, seriously hurt his hamstring, so unsure at this stage whether there's going to be surgery or not, but he hopes to be back.
Yeah, they were both on, I was doing the boundary, they were both on crutches after the game. So, yeah, there was a fair bit of concern over either. Yep.
How important is Josh Caddy to Geelong's premiership aspirations?
Oh, more than some people would think. I mean, they have Dangerwood, which is a great, it's getting traction, that nickname too, and I've got the patent on it, everyone.
But I've got the patent on Selfield. If we
we're going to have a vote on that, are we?
No, yeah, but if there's ever a week where Selwood gets 37 and Dangerfield 27,
we'll make it interchangeable.
Selfield.
But getting back to the question, look, you've got Guthrie, Duncan's pretty important, but I think you need more than that. And he is quality, and his role for that side's been undersold a bit. So, yeah, look, they will miss him.
Who replaces him, Hall and Smith?
No, he's out. He's out for a fair while.
And I'd expect a major review at Port Adelaide at the end of the season. You touched on the Power earlier on. The leadership group's been a bit of an issue in terms of players being yo-yos basically up and down each week. Travis Boak hasn't had a great season. Hamish Hartlett and Justin Westhoff, who was part of the leadership group. So I'd expect there to be a bit of fallout at Port if they don't make the 8, which looks like being the case.
Good stuff. Maybe Kochi can consult their Chinese partners and see if they've got any ideas for the football department. Thanks, JP. Yep. You'll be back for our credibility ladder segment because you reek of football credibility. Let's get to another break, and when we return, it's our weekly trip in the football time machine.
Grant Dickinson from Footyology, that performance was about as good as Police Academy 8.
No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Without being disrespectful, we just didn't turn up playing hard enough for long enough.
Welcome back, and we've been flooded with correspondence from people asking if we can go even further back in time. And the answer, of course, is that some dimwit from Channel 7 decided to tape over much of the old footage so they could safely store those early episodes of Neighbours. So no, we can't show you all the great moments from the 1980s. We can, however, show you Jason Donovan wearing acid wash and packing a serious mullet. Nonetheless, Round 13's had no shortage of highlights, and we've been able to salvage some of the best. Settle back with a West Coast cooler, because like Bobby Skilton preceding every special comment with, as we watch now on replay, so are the rounds of our lives. Okay, Finey, what a collection we've got this week. I'm going to get straight to it. Number 5 on our Hits and Memories parade, we go back to the SCG. The year is 1993. Unlike today, the Swans are hopeless. They haven't won a game since mid-1992. 23 consecutive defeats. They've sacked their coach, Gary Buckenara. Ron Barassi's come to save the day. They still can't win a game. They've had Richard Osborne knocked out and carried off the ground in an ambulance. He's come back in a helmet. They're playing Melbourne, who are a pretty reasonable side, finalists the previous year. They can't possibly win this one, can they? Well, let's have a look.
After 26 losses on the trot, the Swans under master coach Ron Barassi scored the win that ended the streak. It took a 10-goal bag from Richard Osborne to do it. The finals aspirants Melbourne, very bad loss indeed.
Scott Doreen, Richard Osborne, he's got it. The full forward for goal number 9. Oh, he's close. It's a goal. Oh, Richard Osborne in the Swans' day. Race to half forward. He can have a shot. He hooks it back. He's looking for Osborne. Osborne at the back as well. Oh, this is Richard Osborne's day. He's going to kick for goal number 10. This will be 6th goal of the term. Richard Osborne, goal number 10. What a great effort.
Sydney won its first match since beating Brisbane on May the 8th, 1992. One look at Chairman Mike Withersey's face told it all.
No, that wasn't Nick Natanui's father in the picture there. It was Sanford Wheeler.
Well, that was one of the big changes that helped Sydney win that game. Matthew Wheeler changed his name from Matthew Wheeler to Sanford Wheeler.
Yeah.
Struck home, obviously, with... did you like he was the provider? Now, I love the sort of left of centre players, off Hollywood, off Broadway players. Scotty Doreen.
Oh, yeah.
He was provider on 2 separate occasions there, number 43, little Scott Doreen, and Richard Osborne marking over Matthew Phoebe, or Steve Phoebe, actually. I think
they started to come good not long after. Let's go to number 4 on the list. We go to the Gabba. The year is 2005. The Lions, not quite at their peak now, but Jason Ackermanis still at his peak. And he kicked a pair of goals which either could have been the goal of the year. Let's have a look.
He is the only Geelong player who's looked comfortable on the deck today.
Ackermanis, uncharacteristic fumble for him. Or maybe he just wanted to make the goal look more difficult. Don't tell me. He's a gun. He's done it before.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
I don't need to go overboard. This is a great goal.
Yeah, it's like that. He was manning the radar. There goes the short one into its Bradshaw. Bounced off his chest. Taken by McGrath. With a looping hand pass, Ackermanis. Back it goes towards Black. Hasn't seen a lot of the football. Again, Dwelt on the handball. Timed it brilliantly. Can he top himself? He can't top himself. Oh, hush my mouth. Hush my mouth. Well, about a minute ago he knew he was good. Now he knows he's better there.
How good is this bloke?
The policeman's happy. Even Acker knows. You've got to be good to get away with that false moustache and beard.
He was an absolute gun, wasn't he? Yeah, I know. Yeah, love the understatement.
Was that from Home Alone?
I don't know, but it started a trend. A lot of guys do that now. I was just thinking, watching that, he could thread them from everywhere, and he kicked a similar one, or a couple like that, in the 2003 grand final when he ended up with 5 goals. Brownlow medalist, classic big occasion player. He was a gun.
Was it because of the wet conditions and the ground was a bit greasy that we didn't get a handstand?
Well, we might have. That used to come at the end of the game.
That's right.
In fact, I once got into big trouble. I was doing radio and I ran out the end of the ground to interview him, waited till he did his handstand, and then the ground announcer yelled out over the PA, "Would you please get off the Gabba ground?"
Rowan Connolly.
I was in big trouble.
Did you see the current Essendon player that had been interchanged during that film clip?
No. Who was it?
On P. Riccardi, off Jay Kelly.
Oh, yes. Yes, in his early days. Nice. All right, now we're going even further back for number 3. This is one of my favourites, Finey. I suspect not one of yours.
This is a fit-up, by the way.
Yeah, well, hang on. Let's get to it. The venue is the Western Oval. The year is 1978. Footscray, they're struggling along, but they do have a gun full forward. His name is Kelvin Templeton. And on this day, against a hapless St Kilda, he went berserk.
8 goals. That's his time. Closing stages of the last quarter. Dempsey gets up and beats the Again, Dunstan puts it down to Templeton. He gets a push in the back. Templeton hoping to kick his 11th goal. Looks good. Templeton shooting for his 12th. Oh! Again, Templeton to get the fly from the back. Oh! They've played it. The umpire's played it.
And thousands of children on the ground, at least 1,000. But the siren hasn't gone yet. That's his 16th mark. And he's kicked 14 goals, and play will be held up here for at least 3 or 4 minutes, I feel sure. And there's the coach, Don McKenzie. He's on the ground now. I'm just wondering, Jeff, you know, can he be on the ground? As far as I know, the siren hasn't gone. It hasn't gone yet. And he's kicked it. That's his 15th. And the crowd come back. The crowd come back. The siren's gone, is it? I haven't heard the siren go, but it must have gone.
I know what you're going to say. The worst awarding of a mark in football history.
No, it wasn't, because
Gary Abbott's mark of the year.
I guarantee you before then, there was a mark that was paid to Templeton that was even more ridiculous, just flew straight through his hands. Look, that was it. Do you know how many points he kicked that day?
7?
9.
9.
15 goals, 9.
Poor old Trevor Barker. How many frees did Trevor Barker give away that?
I mean, look, it was a fit-up. The umpire was Kevin Bryant.
Yeah.
He later admitted, I've actually interviewed Kevin Bryant on radio, he said that he did get caught up in the moment.
I think he did.
And he feels, looking back at the video, that he may have awarded Kelvin Templeton some marks and free kicks that he didn't deserve. For me, the highlight was the little forward pocket rover.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Jack Di
Natale.
There he was.
Can we do it? We'll both do it.
Just the applauding, and he was one of the fans.
I wonder if he's related to Richard Di Natale. Anyway.
The Greens?
Yeah.
He's not, because I've asked him.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. You are a font of information. Okay, number 2.
On that, you know Richard Di Natale played in the VFL.
I do.
Yeah.
Was it Northcote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
VFL.
Yeah.
Good footballer.
Number 2, I don't think people will need much reminding. It's back to 2010, and it's another pair of spectacular goals. I think you know where I'm headed with this. The player's name is Lance Franklin.
Here's Guerra off one step with a long ball to centre wing.
Wider in front, up he goes, fisted away by Renoff, roving the pack, dashing in. Lewis to the advantage of Franklin. Players flooding back now inside the 50, but Franklin's running it. He foots it inside the 50, then spears it home. 4 goals to Buddy Franklin, and that's probably the pick of them.
I think we can officially...
Burgoyne out, kicks it up towards the wing. Buddy Franklin goes back. Advantage is paid. It's a one-man He's away, running down towards the 50. Can he do it again? Man running back towards the goal square. Needs to be closer. He can't bounce it through. He kicks it through on the full. Franklin, 5 goals.
And they're all the same. This has been the way he's done it tonight. Got upfield. As I said, we've said all night, Hook has been good in the contest in the air, but as soon as the ball went over the back, and Franklin has now got the footy, Hook is 1 yard behind. I reckon Franklin could have run another 100 metres, and he would have been 5 metres behind by then.
If you watch him here, he goes closer to the boundary line again and backs his ability. That is extraordinary football.
He's got that natural right to left kicking action, so he knows if he gets it to right goal post, it'll just swing back, which is...
That's as good as goals I've ever seen.
As he tries to smile through gritted teeth. I was doing the boundary that night too, and I remember seeing him go past me, and Cale Hooker looking like Forrest Gump running behind him. And I remember interviewing Cale Hooker. That was probably the making of him, because he felt so sort of embarrassed by that, and people constantly bring it up, and the replay being shown, that I reckon he really knuckled down and became an All-Australian. So it was a win-win for both parties in that chase.
The first goal was great. The second goal was greatest.
Yeah.
That is a magnificent goal, that second goal.
Well, particularly for a left footer. You know, he's on the wrong side. That capacity he has to make it swing back like an outswinger.
And the age-old question that Jason Dunstall hates when a player's running towards goal, that he kicks it along the ground.
Yeah.
He did both. The first one he dribbled, the second one he kicked at shoulder height. Oh, God, they were good goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our number 1, and this is a fantastic moment. We're not going too far back. It's to the Gabba. The year is 2013. Geelong at one stage, I think 53 points up. Brisbane proceed to launch one of the greatest comebacks in football history. Still look like they're just going to pull up short. There's about a minute left on the clock, half a minute left on the clock. Geelong's got possession. What's going to happen? Let's find out.
Every mark, every handball, every kick, so vital. Selwood down the line. Dawson Simpson, the big man, in for his first, and he plays on to Corey. They'll be deep again. A mark here will win the game. Podsy Adley couldn't quite. It might win the mark for win the game yet for Brisbane. Got himself into a difficult position. Yo. And now Black, who's been so instrumental, about to be hunted down, didn't panic. It was a great kick. Pat Full in the centre. We're down to 9 seconds. And it's a mark. He's got to get up, Adcock. Had to give to anybody. It's Zorko. Got a mark and he's got it. The milestone man. Siren sounds. And it's going to come down to Ash McGrath. This is better than a fairy tale. You can't dream these scenarios. Ashley McGrath in his 200th game are behind. Will create a draw. A goal will give the Lions an incredible victory. Ash McGrath comes in. It's on its way. It's there. The miracle on grass! The Brisbane Lions have kicked 8 goals in the last quarter, and at the 11th hour, they have won.
How good was that? Great call from our mate Anthony Hudson too, as he's done.
The miracle on grass.
Yeah, no, good line, Hutto. Well done.
Do you remember the miracle on ice?
Yes, it was the US beating the Soviet Union in the ice hockey at, don't tell me, Moscow 1980.
Do you remember who the hero was?
No, I know they made a movie on it. Who was the hero?
Mike Erozione.
Oh, there you go.
He was the Ashley McGrath of his time.
Well, Ash McGrath, what a moment. 200 games, great comeback. That was the ultimate fairy tale. And I can't remember a post-siren kick from that far out to win the game, actually. Oh, except Malcolm Blight.
I can remember one.
Which?
And it was, have you guessed what? Fitzroy versus Geelong. So very similar jumpers. Kevin Caton, 60 metres.
Yeah. But that was a point. He hit the post.
Didn't matter because the scores were level.
Fair enough. Well,
scores were level, 60 metres out. He hit the knob on top of the behind post at Princes Park.
I know it sounds like I say this virtually every week, but I was covering that game. I was covering that game.
How many Rowan Connollys are there?
Well, fortunately for a lot of people, just the one. Time for another break now. When we come back, it's your tweets, our answers. Thanks for joining us here on Footyology. Well, I love Twitter, and Finey doesn't even pretend to, but let's show him how effective is the immediacy of social media. Send us your questions using the Footyology hashtag, try to use English, and we'll try to work out what the hell you're banging on about. It's time for Keyboard Q&A. All right, we're going to race through them today, Finey. Tweet, please. Who's it from?
Johnson Von.
He says, I was there as a young boy, Finey. Were you at VFL Park the day Doug Booth kicked the dog that ran onto the ground?
Yeah, it was. It was Queen's birthday, 1978. Saints were playing Collingwood. We were getting done like a dinner. It was a grey afternoon. And I swear, just before he kicked the dog, I commented, I said, what on earth is Doug Booth doing in this team? He is there and he does nothing. 5 minutes later, he did something. He hates talking about it. He went...
Oh, really?
Well...
Did he get the copter from the RSPCA? Did he get weeks? Did he get reported?
No, he didn't get reported, but he quickly left league football and he's an anthropologist. He went and worked in Africa.
Wow. Maybe there was overcome by a sense of guilt or something.
We got to kick gorillas and lions and giraffes.
Yeah, be a bit more fierce the comeback, I reckon. Okay, next. Okay, AK Chapman. Is the competition flawed? One team, Hawthorn, has won 9, quite possibly 10 flags in 33 years. I used to know that off the top of my head, but someone can do the math. Equalisation has failed. I'd still argue the bigger picture view is it's worked. We've had 9 different premiers over the 25 seasons of the AFL.
That's right.
There was a period there between 67 and 84 when we had only 4 premiers in 19 years. So I think the ratio is double what it was.
Hawthorn 12 in 45 years. They've, since the AFL has begun, of the tradition of the teams, not Gold Coast GWS.
Yeah.
Is Richmond the only team not to play in a grand
final?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a pretty good effort.
Yeah.
Especially a system that keeps Richmond out of grand finals.
Yeah, I'd like to that'll go down well. I'd like to revisit that question in a few years, but I still am a believer in the draft and salary cap to keep the premiers ticking over. Next.
Twiggy.
Who asks, D's paid a decent pick and salary for Jake Melksham. Is he even in their best 22 now? That's a really good question. Look, I've got to admit, I thought by the time he left Essendon he was struggling. Couldn't really deliver on the consistency front. Disposal a bit questionable, which made him disposable.
He's in their best 22. Good strong body.
He has got a very strong body. But I think they've got to ramp up, got to keep ramping up the quality rather than the toughness. You know, their inside game, even when they've been at their lowest ebb, has been okay. So I think they've got to add a bit more polish. I'm not sure if he provides that.
Yeah, I'll give Melksham the benefit of the doubt of being one of those players that finds something at a second club, because he's got something. He just needs to, I think, fully commit to football and get his mind wrapped around 24/7, and I reckon the year off might do it for him.
Yeah, well, he's had plenty of time to ponder it. Next tweet, please.
Now, this is from Salvatore,
who asks, with GWS having 8 of their last 10 games against sides outside the top 8, what chance of top 4 and of at least making a preliminary final? Very, very good. We've said it before. I think it's a really good year for a precocious newcomer to finals football to pinch a flag, because there are no super teams.
Well, I don't think they can win the flag, but I've done the calculations. They'll make the top 4.
Yeah, well, who makes way for them, then? Do you think Hawthorn might? Or you think North Melbourne might?
I think North Melbourne will.
They got a really tough run, haven't they? 6 of their last 9 North against top 8 sides. So
Adelaide and West Coast away in their next 2 games. They'll be behind GWS trying to catch up with a worse fixture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think North make way.
Okay, we've got another one, I think one more, and it is from Paul, who asks, if the Cats finish in the top 2, should they get a home final at Simmons Stadium first week? Well, the precedent's been set now, hasn't
it? Yeah, they had a home final there a couple of years ago, and they fluffed their lines.
Yeah, they did.
They played perfectly well at the MCG. If they're looking to win a premiership, don't even consider Simmons Stadium. Get onto the MCG, have a good start to the finals on the ground that you plan to win the big one at.
Yeah, it'd be interesting what their mindset was on it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be asking for it. I'd just say, bring on the MCG. It's where we belong. I'm pretty sure when they won all those flags, when they won 3 premierships, they weren't looking to play home games at Cardinia Park.
Yeah, because interesting. That was a great win by Freo down there in that final. But I wonder if the opponent, it automatically gives the opponent an even tougher mindset.
I think it does.
Yeah.
World against us, the resolve. You want to play at home? We'll gird our loins.
Yeah.
Go to the G.
You love that expression, don't you? You love a good girding of loins.
I do.
What else? Do you ever gird anything else, or just loins?
I don't think you can gird anything bar your loins. You want to see my loins?
No, I don't particularly.
Then get on with it.
Well, I was going to say, is anything but see ever girt as well? Girt and gird. They're 2 words you don't use in any other context.
Get on with it, Gertie.
Okay. That's interesting, you telling me to get on with it for once. Another break now.
I've got something before we go to the break, given interrupting is my...
So you told me to get on with it, and then you... Okay,
Yep. I went down as a spy to... North Melbourne, there's been a lot of talk about ducking and shrugging.
Yes.
Lindsay Thomas.
Yes, I was aware of that.
Brad Scott has admitted that they do some pre-training, preparing their players to lift the arms.
Really?
Yeah.
How do they do it?
Watch it. I've got footage.
Okay. Yep. You know what I'm going to say here, don't you? That was Sean Higgins, Mad Jack Daw, and Lindsay Thomas.
Yeah, and Andrew Dimitriev.
Gomez.
See him drop back?
He used to carry a great mode. Great. Those training outfits, they're getting pretty snazzy, aren't they?
Never has the sky blue looked so fetching.
Great. Well, North Melbourne kicked the media out of the rooms after last Friday night's game. They're going to be kicking us out for eternity after that. Another break now. Coming up next, the ladder that takes no stock of reputation and sometimes no stock of logic. Welcome back. Well, 6 teams have had a week off, but don't think for a minute that means their reputation is safe, because nothing is as volatile as the Footyology credibility ladder. And nothing is as stupid as your head bobbling about on that little body.
Piss off.
So the sales aren't going well then? All right, well, let's get straight into it. And look, I've decided to make...
Another executive decision?
Yes, I knew you were getting used to the routine. Yes, I have.
Oh, here we go again. Well, I don't know what they put my head on the thing on the ladder. It's clearly you've hijacked this whole concept.
So we can metaphorically knock it off. Guess who I've got on top, boys?
Oh, let me imagine, even though they lost Essendon?
Correct. We're breaking new ground here.
No way.
We're breaking new ground. We're going for a loser on top of the ladder. Everyone thought they were going to lose by 100 plus points.
I've had
you're
enough
not
of it.
storming offset again. Sit down.
I can't put them on
sensibly.
top.
Okay, who do you think's on top?
Hawthorn.
Okay, explain why.
Because they came up on Friday night, and this is a game, I mean, they just keep on winning. They found a way. For me, the credibility ladder is about how you do it and how you craft a win. They were hammered early. North had all the play. They had no right to win that game. If you've seen the numbers out of that game, every measurable said North wins and Hawthorn wins. They're the most credible team I've ever seen.
Okay, what's your
I hate
call?
to admit it, but I tend to agree with Rowan. Like, the last few weeks, the Bombers had no credibility whatsoever. Coming up against a team many think is going to win the flag. Why not?
That's what it's about.
Yep.
Although, look, it's a really persuasive argument, Finey. I don't do this often, so I've taken your advice on board, and I'm not going to do it now either. Essendon are on top of the credibility ladder.
Surprise, surprise.
And in fact, because you've been so petulant about it, I'm going to push Hawthorn down to number 3 this week. And in fact, it's Geelong who's taking number 2. They stitched up the Bulldogs, really effective. Dangerwood, trademark. Came good again, and their backline's superb. And against another potential flag aspirant, they put them away.
A few concerns about the Bulldogs, I reckon. Their losses this year have been against top 8 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Forward set up among one. Okay, coming in 4th. Nominations, please, quick.
Swans?
Yeah, I think Swans is
in the mud heap of the SCG.
Whack them in.
Yep.
Okay, Swans next. Put a lot of thought into this segment, we really do. Coming in next...
Hey, but you know who played really well for the Swans?
Who?
Hannity. That's Hanbury and Kennedy.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same zing about it. Okay, Freo next. Coming in next, I've got a loser because they dominated the statistics, had a few key players out, and yet still, had they kicked straight, probably would have won. I'm going for the Kangaroos next in 6th spot. Any objection?
No.
Okay.
Dalstein?
Don't know why I bothered asking that, because I wouldn't have cared if there was an objection.
You're not buying Dalstein?
Dalstein. Are they Ajax?
I'm not so sure about North's aggro approach, though, whether that's the best way. At the end of the day, they still lost.
Yeah, they did.
You know, it looked a bit like too forced.
Yeah, I'm saying it looked a bit put on, didn't it?
You need to win when you do that.
And it was as though they decided, look, we're going to, for a quarter and a bit, we're really going to put the acid on them, and somebody forgot to tell Ferrito to turn off the tap.
Good old Spud. I love Spud. Okay, West Coast next. Just got the job done against Brisbane at the Gabba. Win on the road, but not overly impressive.
No. Did anybody watch that game?
I did.
So about 15
nothing
minutes.
else in my life.
Yeah. I did not.
Apart from Game of Thrones, which you hate. Bloody great episode last night too.
Nerd.
Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide next. Really need to make a statement in Perth. Couldn't do it. Weren't put away. So that's sort of.
Yeah, but I think they could have been lower. They're
Yeah.
playing against a team that only had 2 wins to that stage.
Yeah.
Struggled all year. This is a game they needed to win if they're really to make the 8. Now they're 2 games outside the 8 and just about cooked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll refer your comments on to the
producer.
Yeah. Well, sort of me, really, isn't it? Yeah. No, Sam's our
Where's Sam?
producer.
Chief executive.
Sam's our producer. Actually, I did consult Sam on this letter, so you can blame him, and then you'll get left off the panel for the next 3 weeks. Brisbane next. I'm putting second last. This could be the lowest ever spot for a victor, but GWS. That was just a win. Now, they strolled on Etihad, thought, we're going to come out in our little white away strip and we're just going to walk all over you, Bomb Rays, and they didn't.
I disagree. It wasn't a great win, but you know what? When you're playing a team that has been up against it, like Essendon, and you're down, you need to find something, and they did something in that second half to avert a major tragedy. I agree, downgrade them, but worse than Port, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that on board.
Yeah, of course you will.
And last one, Bulldogs. You guys can explain that.
Yeah, now Bulldogs did not fire a shot, did they?
No, they needed a scalp, didn't they? And they just couldn't get their run. The Cats split them right open, right through the middle.
And you know what? It might have a bit of long-term effect, because as far as credibility goes, all of a sudden they look like boys again. They looked smallish. They looked overmatched. And
I'd hate to say it. They're sort of falling into the tradition of previous Bulldogs flag aspirants by not being able to kick big enough scores and not having an ideal forward setup, and it's unfortunately ringing a bell.
Yeah, it's
over
about
a couple
91
of
points a game, isn't it, at the moment?
Let's be honest, save the flick pass, they've never been able to measure up.
Yeah, but they've got the key forward that supposedly was going to be the panacea for this.
I reckon he comes in this week. I don't reckon they've got much choice.
They've just got to play him for a month and see how he goes.
Are you saying drop Redpath?
Possibly.
Bring in Stackpole?
Oh, that one never gets old. Okay, got anything more to say for yourself?
I'm going home.
Okay, class dismissed. Nice suit once again. We'll pick ours up sooner or later. Time for our final break, but don't go away, because there's been a lot of anger in the football world the last few days, and we think it'd be pretty rude of us not to join in.
Connolly's come up with the great name of Selwood and Dangerfield put together called Dangerwood. Can I suggest you guys might do two of your players like Suckling and Dixon?
Yeah, okay. I'll just try that.
Dixon and Suckling, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, no shortage of outrage in football at the moment, some of it justified and some, like ours, completely contrived. But Finey and I will always back ourselves to deliver the tirade most disproportionate to the crime at hand. You'll never see bigger mountains made out of tinier molehills than on the Footyology Rant-Off! Do you like that one? I got more of a guttural roar into that, and less sort of, no? Okay. Ooh, you know when Finey's upset because he doesn't actually talk, he just sort of lowers his head and nods like that.
Not good.
It's like being told off by your mum. I'm going to get sent to my room. Okay, I'm going first this week. I'm pretty sure it's my turn. It is my turn to go first, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Okay, I'm going first. Count me in, please.
3, 2, 1.
I know my French. I'm not happy, Finey. Well, I'm never happy, really. But now I'm not just pissed off, but deaf as well. That's because I'm a middle-aged man who likes to go to the football. And these days, that also means being subjected to an oral assault so bad it makes Alvin and the Chipmunks doing Justin Bieber sound like Beethoven. You can't even get inside the MCG before it starts now. Those attendants with the loudhailers and their constant monologues. How the hell did a none too complex task of walking through a gate, scanning a ticket and sitting in a seat become something requiring a 5-minute verbal instruction manual? Then at every break, it's not just the ads on the scoreboard at ear-splitting volume, but a couple of commentators telling you what you've already seen. Hey, newsflash guys, the main reason people are at the footy is to get away from you, not listen to a 20-metre high replica. And don't get me started on Etihad Stadium. More crappy disco music and strobe lighting than the 21st century dance club, not to mention the vomit all over the stairs. There's stupid signs telling me whether I need to cheer. What next? Put up your hand for permission to go to the toilet? But even that's not as bad as some bloody Ken and Barbie couple screaming at you every 5 minutes about all the great bargains in the supporter shop. Listen, numbskulls, my team's been crap for 15 years and gets flogged every week. I want you to pay me to wear their gear, not the other way around.
That's good.
Oh, thanks. You sound surprised.
Sort of.
All right, get stuffed. Okay, I'm counting you in now. 3, 2, 1, red!
Too many different rounds. I cannot stand the engineering that's going on at the AFL, social engineering. I didn't like engineering at university, and I don't like this. What have we got coming up in a couple of weeks? Multicultural round. Well, I'll be able to get Baba Ganoush and Shish to look at the football. You know what? If I want Baba Ganoush, I'll go down Sydney Road. I won't go to Etihad Stadium. We've got rounds coming out of rounds, spurting out of other rounds. Women's rounds becomes the pink round. There's socially acceptable rounds like sexual diversity round. I mean, what was this round? Was it bi round? We've got a bi round and a gay round. How about a fiercely heterosexual round? Look, can't we just have a football round? That's a round where we play football, and we're not trying to improve anything on the social justice scale. We're not trying to make the world a better place. We're just trying to kick footballs and get goals. Stick your different rounds, stop your social engineering, and let me, the football fan, go to the football and enjoy football. It's all too confusing. I'm not a good person, and I'm certainly not going to the footy to become a better one.
Can I just please completely disassociate myself from the entire last minute of the show and everything that Mark Fine had to say? I know where you're coming from. But I think there's a place for some sort of social welfare stuff in football, but I'll say that very quietly. Okay.
You want a feel-good, huggy, far left round, do you?
Oh, far left. I've been waiting for someone to turn this latest brouhaha into a left versus right argument, but I didn't think it'd be you, Mark Fine. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us again. We're on every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on YouTube, 7:30 p.m. on Channel 31, and now every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. on Foxtel's Aurora. And remember, as the Eagles put it so memorably in Hotel California, last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but not till footyology. That was shocking. See you next week.